I should have never done it. I knew it then, just as I know it now. But when he looked at me like that, with those ravenous eyes, something inside me collapsed. My body reacted instinctively, drowning out logic. And the worst part, I didn't want to resist. It began like any other evening. My husband David was working late, as he often did. 15 years of marriage had made our life together comfortable, predictable. I wasn't exactly unhappy, but there were times I caught myself wondering if this was all there was. The same caresses, the same kisses, the same unchanging, slow-moving love. I wasn't old, yet something inside me felt as though it was fading, slipping away. A fire that had once burned fiercely now flickered weakly, barely clinging to life. That night, I had plans to meet my friend Laura for drinks at a bar we both loved downtown. A stylish, dimly lit spot where laughter mingled with the soft clink of ice against glass. A place where people came to lose themselves for a little while. I dressed carefully, maybe more than necessary. A fitted black dress that accentuated every curve. Heels that made me feel confident, powerful. I told myself I just wanted to feel good, to remind myself that I was still wanted. Laura cancelled at the last moment, offering some excuse about her kids. I could have left, but I chose to stay. I let my fingers skim the rim of my glass as I scanned the room. That's when I saw him. Ethan. It had been years. A name I hadn't spoken aloud in so long, yet one that had never truly left me. Once upon a time, he had been the man who made my knees weak, who knew my body like his favorite story, every chapter read 1,000 times, the one who slipped away. Or rather, the one I let go, because I was too young, too uncertain, too afraid of what I really wanted. But here he was, looking just as he did in my memories. Perhaps even better. He saw me, and in an instant, it was as if no time had passed. A slow, knowing smile curved his lips, and before I could reconsider, he was already making his way toward me. "Well, this is unexpected," he said, his voice smooth and rich, like the bourbon swirling in my glass. I laughed, but it came out breathless, as if he had stolen the air from my lungs. "It is. What are you doing here?" "Visiting a friend. Thought I'd grab a drink before heading back to my hotel." His gaze flickered down my body, just for a moment, but I felt it everywhere. "And you?" "Drinking alone." I hesitated. Laura was supposed to meet me, but she bailed. "So that means I get you all to myself." There was a teasing lilt to his voice, but I saw the way he was looking at me. I should have walked away right then. Should have paid my tab, made my excuses, gone home to David. But I didn't, because Ethan had always made me feel something David never quite could. Reckless, alive, desired in a way that sent fire racing beneath my skin. We talked, catching up on the years that had passed. His career, my marriage. He asked questions that made me laugh, that made me remember the version of myself I had been before responsibility settled over me like a heavy weight. And then, inevitably, "Do you ever think about us?" His voice was softer now, quieter. "About what we had?" My heart faltered. I should have lied. "Sometimes. Me too." The words hovered between us, thick with everything left unsaid. And then he reached out, just the barest brush of his fingertips against mine on the table. A fleeting touch, yet I felt it everywhere. "Come with me," Ethan murmured. "Just to talk. I have a suite upstairs. No expectations, no pressure. Just two old friends catching up. I knew it wasn't that simple, but I nodded anyway. The elevator ride was silent, tension crackling between us, each stolen glance drawing us closer to the point of no return. When the door slid open, I followed him down the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribs. The moment he shut the door behind us, the atmosphere shifted. "You haven't changed," he murmured, standing close enough that I could feel his warmth. "You're still breathtaking." I swallowed hard. "Ethan," he cut me off with a kiss. Soft at first, tentative, waiting. I could have stopped it, could have pushed him away, but my hands betrayed me, fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. The instant our bodies collided, something inside me shattered, came undone. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't stop. That night I surrendered. The next morning, I woke tangled in the sheets, my body aching in a way that served as a reminder of my choices. Ethan's side of the bed was empty, the sheets already cool to the touch. For a fleeting moment, I almost believed I had imagined it all. The hunger in his eyes, the way his hands traced over my skin as though he had never forgotten it. But then I saw the note, a scrap of hotel stationery. His handwriting scrawled across it. My chest tightened. I couldn't do it. I couldn't face him again. Couldn't risk seeing that look, the one that made me forget everything that mattered. I crumpled the note in my palm and slipped out of bed, the weight of what I had done pressing down on me. In the bathroom mirror, I barely recognized myself. My hair was disheveled, my lipstick smudged. My eyes, once clear and steady, now seemed shadowed, weary. I showered quickly, scrubbing at my skin, trying to erase the night. But Ethan's touch lingered, refusing to be washed away. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt him again. His voice, his hands, the taste of his kiss. When I stepped out, the room was still and silent, as though it were holding its breath, waiting for me to accept the truth. I got dressed and walked out without glancing back. Outside, the city was alive, humming with energy. I hailed a cab and headed home, my stomach twisted in knots. What could I possibly say to David? How was I supposed to face him after what I'd done? The guilt clung to me, suffocating, squeezing me like a vice. Eating was impossible. Thinking too. My mind was trapped in an endless loop, replaying the events of the night, searching for the moment when I lost control. When I arrived home, David was still at work. That gave me time to pull myself together, to figure out what the hell I was going to do. I sank onto the couch, staring at the blank television screen, the silence in the house pressing in on me. This wasn't me. I wasn't the kind of woman who did things like this. But last night, with Ethan, I had felt something I hadn't in so long, alive, as if I had finally awakened from a deep slumber. The thrill, the rush, the burning heat of it all. It had been intoxicating. And now it was devouring me from the inside out. I thought about calling Laura. I needed someone to confide in, to help me make sense of this mess. But Laura would never understand. She'd be horrified, maybe even disgusted. She believed in loyalty, in the sacredness of marriage. If I told her, she'd never look at me the same way again. No, I couldn't tell her. I couldn't tell anyone. David arrived home late, exhausted as always. He kissed my cheek and asked about my day. I forced a smile, the words leaving my lips feeling hollow, empty. I felt like a stranger in my own body. But he didn't notice. He never noticed. Days passed, but the guilt didn't fade. It followed me like a shadow, a constant reminder of what I had done. I tried to bury it, to focus on work, on keeping up appearances. But it was always there, lurking just beneath the surface. And then Ethan called. At first, I didn't recognize the number, but when I heard his voice, my breath hitched. "Hey," he said, his tone casual, as if nothing had changed. "I just wanted to check in, see how you were." I didn't know how to respond. My heart pounded, my hands damp with sweat. "I'm fine," I managed to say, though the words stuck in my throat. "I've been thinking about you," he admitted, and I could hear the smile in his voice. "About us." "Ethan, I can't." "Listen, I know this is complicated," he interrupted, "but I can't stop thinking about you. Last night was incredible." I shut my eyes, the memory of his hands on my skin flooding back. "It was a mistake," I whispered, though my voice trembled. "Was it?" His voice softened, almost pleading. "Because I don't think it was." I ended the call. I couldn't do this. But his words lingered, burrowing into my thoughts. Was it really a mistake? Or had it been something more? Something I had been missing for years. That night, sleep wouldn't come. David lay beside me, snoring softly, unaware. I stared at the ceiling, my mind spinning. Ethan's words, his touch, his kiss, they played on repeat in my head. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't shut it off. I felt like I was drowning, trapped between the life I had and the one I couldn't stop thinking about. I started avoiding David. I worked late, found excuses to stay out. And when I was home, I couldn't meet his eyes. Every touch felt like a lie. I told myself that with time, the guilt would fade. But it didn't. Instead, I found myself yearning for the rush I had felt with Ethan. The fire that had burned so brightly, even if only for a single night. And then Ethan called again. This time I didn't hang up. We talked. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than shame. With him, I didn't have to pretend. I could be honest. We didn't explicitly mention what had happened, but it was there, woven into every pause, every unspoken word. I convinced myself it was harmless, that it was just a conversation. But deep down, I knew the truth. This wasn't innocent. It was a lifeline, a connection I wasn't willing to sever. The calls became more frequent. At first, they were short. Then they stretched longer and longer. He told me about his job, his dreams, his life. I told him pieces of mine, the parts I could share. The more we talked, the lighter my secret felt, replaced by something far more dangerous. Hope. He made me laugh, made me feel seen in a way I hadn't in years. I found myself anticipating his calls, longing to hear his voice. I knew it was wrong, but I couldn't stop. It had become an addiction, a craving I had no desire to fight. I kept telling myself I had control, that it wouldn't go any further. But I was lying. I was already in too deep. When we finally met again, it was under the guise of friendship. A quiet cafe. A place where no one would recognize me. My heart pounded the entire time, my palms damp with sweat. When he saw me, he smiled. That same smile that had unraveled me before. "You look beautiful," he said. My cheeks burned. "Ethan, we shouldn't." "I know," he cut in gently. "I just wanted to see you, to talk. That's all." But we both knew it wasn't all. The conversation started out light, easy, but it didn't stay that way. His hand brushed mine, and I didn't pull away. His gaze flickered to my lips, and I didn't stop him. We didn't leave together, I made sure of that. But as I walked back to my car, I felt it again. That rush, that fire, the same one that had consumed me before. I knew I was playing with fire, but I didn't care. I wanted it. I wanted him. Over the next few weeks, we found ways to steal moments together, hidden away from curious eyes. I told myself it was just physical, that it was only a way to feel alive again, but I knew better. But it was more than that. Ethan awakened emotions in me that had been dormant for years. He made me feel wanted, cherished, desired. With him, I felt like the woman I once was, the one who embraced risks, who pursued passion without hesitation. Yet, with each embrace, every kiss, the weight of guilt pressed down on me. I couldn't continue this double life, couldn't keep deceiving David or myself. A decision had to be made, and I knew it wouldn't come easily. But every time I attempted to pull away, Ethan refused to let me go. His voice was gentle, his touch persuasive. "Stay," he murmured one evening, his arms securely wrapped around me. I wanted to, God, how I wanted to, but I knew I couldn't. I had to put an end to this before it unraveled everything, before it consumed me entirely. That night, as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, I recognized that I had reached a turning point. I could keep chasing this exhilarating high, this fleeting excitement, or I could confront reality and accept the consequences. I had no idea how to mend this mess, no clear solution in sight. The only certainty was that I couldn't continue living like this, torn between two lives, two loves. A decision had to be made, and it had to be made soon. But for now, I simply shut my eyes and tried to push it all from my mind. It had been 3 weeks since I last saw Ethan. 3 long weeks of attempting to force myself to forget. But I couldn't. He lingered in every stolen thought, his voice echoing in my head when night fell. I'd catch myself gazing out the window, envisioning his face, recalling the way he had looked at me that night. My heart would pound, and I'd have to remind myself to breathe. It wasn't right. It wasn't fair to David. But no matter how hard I tried, Ethan refused to fade from my mind. David was away again for work. His business trips had become more frequent. I convinced myself it didn't bother me, but deep down, it did. It left me alone with my thoughts, burdened by the weight of my actions. He called every night before bed, his voice steady and reassuring as he recounted his meetings, the clients he had won over. I listened, nodding along, saying the right things. But in my mind, I was elsewhere, thinking of Ethan, of how he made me feel. One evening, after David's usual call, I poured myself a glass of wine and sank onto the couch. My fingers scrolled absently through my phone, seeking distraction. And then I saw it. His name, Ethan. A simple message, a question. "How are you?" My chest tightened. I didn't know how to respond. I should have ignored it, deleted it, blocked his number. But instead, I opened the message. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my mind racing. I knew replying would only complicate things further. But before I could stop myself, I typed back, "I'm fine. How are you?" His reply arrived almost instantly. "I miss you." 3 little words sent my heart into chaos. I inhaled deeply, attempting to regain control. I shouldn't have felt this way. Shouldn't have allowed him to have such a hold over me. But the truth was, I missed him too. We began talking again, cautiously at first. Brief messages, small talk. But it didn't take long for our conversations to deepen. He spoke of how often he thought of me, how much he regretted losing me all those years ago. And I admitted that I felt the same, that I couldn't push him from my thoughts either. Each exchange became a confession, a step closer to something irreversible. Then, Ethan suggested we meet. Just to talk, he insisted. Just to see each other. I wanted to refuse. I wanted to stand firm. But before I even realized it, I had agreed. The night we met again, my nerves were frayed. My hands trembled as I prepared, my stomach twisting with both excitement and dread. I reassured myself that this time would be different. We would catch up, nothing more. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. The moment I saw him, everything else melted away. The bustling bar, the clinking glasses, the hum of conversation. They all faded into the background. He smiled. That familiar smile that had unraveled me countless times before. I tried to keep it casual, to stay composed. But the instant he touched my hand, that spark reignited. That irresistible pull. We didn't even make it through the first drink. The words hovered on the edges of our conversation, but they didn't matter. It was in the way he looked at me, the way he leaned in just a fraction too close when he whispered, "Let's get out of here." This time I didn't hesitate. I knew exactly what I was doing. I understood what was at stake, but I went with him anyway. In his hotel room, the air was thick with anticipation. I stood by the window gazing out at the city lights, trying to steady my breathing. Ethan moved behind me, his hands gliding down my arms with deliberate gentleness. "I can't stay long," I murmured, though the conviction in my voice wavered. "Just a little while," he whispered, his lips brushing against my neck. I turned to face him, and the look in his eyes erased my last shred of doubt. His hands cradled my face, and when he kissed me, it felt like coming home. The outside world ceased to exist. Nothing else mattered anymore. I surrendered, letting myself be consumed by him, by the moment. When it was over, I lay beside him, my gaze fixed on the ceiling, my mind a chaotic swirl of thoughts. Ethan traced light circles on my shoulder, his touch gentle and calming. "I've missed you," he murmured softly. I turned to face him, the guilt creeping back into my chest. "This isn't right," I whispered. "Maybe not," he admitted, his expression serious. "But it feels real." I had no idea how to reply. It did feel real, more real than anything I'd experienced in years. But that didn't mean it was right. I couldn't keep doing this. Couldn't keep deceiving David. Yet, when I pictured ending things, a wave of sadness washed over me, one I couldn't quite understand. In the days that followed, I tried to distance myself from Ethan. I ignored his calls, left his messages unread, and buried myself in work, clinging to my routine. Anything that might serve as a distraction. But it was futile. He remained a constant presence in my mind, a persistent reminder of what I couldn't have. One evening, hoping the crisp air might clear my head, I wandered through the park. But instead of easing my thoughts, the quiet pathways and the rustling leaves only deepened my turmoil. Everything reminded me of the walks Ethan and I used to take, the fleeting moments we had stolen. I sank onto a bench, burying my face in my hands, wondering how I had allowed things to spiral this far. My phone vibrated. I glanced down to see Ethan's name on the screen. My chest tightened. I knew I shouldn't answer, but I did. "Hey," he greeted me, his voice warm and familiar. "Hi," I replied. barely above a whisper. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Just talk." I hesitated, then exhaled. "Okay." We met at a coffee shop, one far from home, where I was certain no one would recognize me. Ethan was already seated when I arrived, his hands wrapped around a mug. When he looked up and smiled, that familiar rush coursed through me. "Thanks for coming," he said. As I slid into the chair across from him, I nodded, unsure of what to say. For a moment, we sat in silence, the tension between us thick and heavy. Finally, he spoke. "I know this isn't easy," he began, his voice quiet. "And I don't want to make it harder for you, but I can't pretend I don't have feelings for you." "Ethan," I trailed off, searching for the right words. "I'm married. I made vows. I can't just—" "I'm not asking you to leave him," he interrupted gently. "I'm not asking for anything. I just need you to know that I care about you, that I want you to be happy, even if that means staying with him." I lowered my gaze to my coffee. My thoughts tangled. I cared about Ethan more than I wanted to admit, but I couldn't ignore the guilt that twisted inside me whenever I thought of David. "I can't keep doing this," I finally said, my voice trembling. "It's not fair to anyone." "I understand," Ethan said softly. I don't want to lose you." His words lingered between us, heavy with meaning. I knew a choice had to be made, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. But for now, all I could do was sit there, torn between the life I had and the one I wanted. My heart caught in a relentless and painful tug of war. As the weeks passed, I remained trapped in a constant state of inner conflict. Every decision I made felt like stepping through a minefield with no route that wouldn't leave someone hurt. I was split between two lives, each pulling me in opposite directions. Ethan, who reignited a spark in me, who made me feel alive in a way I hadn't in years. And David, steady and unwavering, the man who had been by my side through everything, who had loved me even when I struggled to love myself. I tried to focus on David, to be present in our marriage. I put in the effort, planning date nights, suggesting weekend trips to the mountains, like we used to take in the early days. I convinced myself that if I could rekindle what we once shared, the emptiness inside me would fade. But it wasn't that simple. Our conversations felt lighter, our laughter less frequent. When he touched me, I found myself recoiling inwardly. Not because I didn't love him, but because I couldn't stop comparing it to Ethan's touch. David, bless him, either didn't notice my internal struggle or chose not to acknowledge it. He had always been the kind to give me space, to let me come to him when something was wrong. But I wasn't going to him. I was slipping further away, lost in memories I couldn't shake. Ethan continued reaching out, though our conversations had dwindled. He sensed my attempts to pull back, to salvage my marriage. But there were no accusations, no pressure, just an unspoken understanding. "I don't want to make this harder for you," he told me one evening when I finally picked up his call. "But I miss you. I miss what we had." "I miss it too," I admitted, my voice unsteady. "But I can't do this anymore." "Then don't," he said quietly. "But just know, I'll always care about you. And if you ever change your mind, I'll be here." When the call ended, I felt an overwhelming mix of relief and sorrow. Relief, because I had finally taken a step toward closure. Sorrow, because I knew that step could never truly erase what I felt. He had become an inseparable part of my life now. whether I wanted him to be or not. I immersed myself in work, in volunteering, in anything that could occupy my time. I began spending more time with Laura, though I never confided in her. She was a wonderful friend, but I knew she wouldn't understand. She adored David and believed in us as a couple, and I didn't want to shatter that perception. It was a bright Saturday morning when everything finally reached its breaking point. David and I were having breakfast on the back patio, a warm breeze stirring the trees. He was reading the newspaper, his coffee cup cradled in one hand. I watched him, my stomach twisting into knots. This was it. I had to tell him. I couldn't continue living this deception, couldn't keep pretending that everything was fine. "David," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. He glanced up, his brow creasing. "What is it?" I inhaled deeply, the words catching in my throat. "There's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you a long time ago." Setting the newspaper aside, his expression grew serious. "Okay, I'm listening." My heart pounded so fiercely, I thought it might drown out my voice. "I made a mistake," I admitted, my voice unsteady. "I did something I shouldn't have, and I need to be honest with you about it." I saw the change in his face, confusion giving way to realization. "What are you saying?" he asked quietly. I tried, but the words wouldn't come. My vision blurred with tears. Finally, I forced them out. "I've been seeing someone else." The confession sliced through me like a blade. I never intended for it to happen, but it did. And I am so sorry, David. For a long moment he said nothing. He just stared at me, his face unreadable. I wanted to flee, to take back what I had said, but I couldn't. I had to accept the consequences of my actions. "When?" he asked at last, his voice trembling. "How long?" "Not long," I answered quickly. "It only happened a few times, and it's over now. I ended it. I swear I'm not seeing him anymore." He nodded slowly, lowering his gaze to the table. The silence between us was suffocating. "Why?" he finally asked. "What did I do wrong?" "No," I said, shaking my head. "It wasn't you. It was never about you. I just, I struggled to articulate what I felt. Somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I was trying to find that part of me again, but I went about it the wrong way. And I hate that I hurt you." David's hands clenched into fists, his jaw tightening. I could see the pain, the betrayal in his eyes. But he didn't shout. He didn't lash out. And somehow, that made it even worse. "I need time," he said finally, his voice raw. "I need to think." "I understand," I whispered. "Take as much time as you need." He stood up and walked away, leaving me alone on the patio. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the empty chair in front of me. My chest felt hollow, my mind spinning. I didn't know if he would ever forgive me. I didn't know if we could ever rebuild what we had. The only certainty was that I had finally spoken the truth. And now I had to face whatever came next. In the weeks that followed, David and I barely exchanged words. He slept in the guest room, kept his distance. I honored his need for space and gave him the time he had asked for. I threw myself into therapy, trying to understand my choices, trying to figure out how to become a better person. I didn't know if it would be enough. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, David came looking for me in the backyard. I was sitting on the porch swing, a book resting in my lap, though I hadn't actually been reading. As he approached, my heartbeat quickened. "Can we talk?" he asked. "Of course," I said, setting the book aside. He sat beside me, the swing creaking lightly under our combined weight. For a while, neither of us spoke. We simply sat there, listening to the evening breeze rustling through the trees. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he said at last. "About us. About everything that happened. And I'm not going to pretend it didn't hurt. Because it did. It still does. But I keep coming back to one thing." "What is that?" I asked softly. "I love you," he said, his voice steady. "I have loved you from the day we met. And even though I'm angry, even though I'm hurt, I don't want to throw away what we have. I don't want to lose you." Tears welled in my eyes. "David, I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I never meant for any of this to happen." "I know," he said. "And I know it's going to take time for me to trust you again. But if you're willing to work on this, then so am I." I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. I reached for his hand, and to my relief, he allowed me to take it. We sat in silence, our fingers entwined, the swing swaying gently in the breeze. It wasn't a perfect resolution. It couldn't erase the past. But it was a beginning, and sometimes that's all you can ask for.